Certain stories are told to you not to scare you, but to warn you. This is the story of the children in the water. I'm from Cuba, but I haven't been there in years. Still, there are certain things that simply never leave you. Like the stories that they tell children to keep them away from places that they don't want to bury them. Where I grew up, there was a river not far from my childhood home. Not a pretty river, not a tourist river, just a wide, slow stretch of dark water that didn't move the way that it should. The adults never called it outright dangerous. They just say things like, "Don't go there after hours," or "The water remembers the children." Now everyone in the town had a story about this river, like a cousin who slipped, or a boy who went for a swim to cool down and never came back out, or the girl's sandals who were found floating days later perfectly upright as if someone had placed it there. They say the children who are drowned, their spirits are trapped in the water. And when the water gets hungry, the children in the water tries to pull other children to replace them. I always thought it was bullshit. That's what people do in Cuba, scare children into behaving. My abuela used to tell us stories by the fireplace when the light went out. She would lower her voice and say, "If you hear children calling your name by the water, you do not answer, because real children do not play there anymore." I laughed. Even at 10 years old, I laughed. Fast forward to when I turned 17. My family went back to Cuba for the summer. I hadn't been there for years, so everything felt smaller. The streets, the houses, even the river. But the stories were still the same. Same warnings, same looks when someone mentioned going to the water. One night, my cousins and I were bored. No internet, no AC, just heat, mosquitoes, and old memories. We played truth or dare in the backyard, half joking, half trying to feel brave again. Then my cousin dared me to go in the water. Not to swim, just to step in. I remember the way everyone went quiet when I said yes. Even the adults stopped pretending not to listen. My aunt told me not to be stupid. My cousin laughed it off, but her eyes wouldn't meet mine. We went anyways. The walk there felt off, too quiet. No frogs, no insects near the water. The moon reflected on the surface, but the reflection was off. Like the water wasn't flat, like something beneath the water was breathing. I took off my shoes and rolled up my jeans. The water was colder than I should have been. The moment my foot touched it, it felt like something brushed my ankles. Not weeds, not fish, fingers. I froze. My cousin whispered my name from the shore, laughing nervously, telling me to hurry up. I took one more step in. That's when the water pulled. Not hard, not violently, just enough. Like a child tugging on my hands, asking me to come and play. I felt small hands wrapped around my calf, too many fingers, overlapping, slippery but strong. I stumbled forward and suddenly the water was at my knees, and then my waist. I couldn't see anything beneath the surface, but I felt the movement. Sharp, brushing against me, pressuring, circling my legs, and then I heard it. Laughing, high-pitched, gargled, like laughter heard through water-filled lungs. I swear to God I heard my name. Not shouted, whispered, right by my ears. A voice sounded young, but wrong, stretched thin, like it didn't belong to my mouth anymore. I panicked and tried to pull back, but the grip tightened. Nails dug into my skin. Something scratched the back of my knees, slow and deliberate, like it was deciding where to pull next. That's when I remember the stories. They don't drown you fast. They need you to give up. I screamed, fell backwards, and kicked as hard as I could. My heels connected with something solid. Not rocked, it yelled. A sharp, wet sound like air forced through water. The grip finally loosened just enough for me to crawl backwards, tearing my skin on the rock, grabbing myself out while the water splashed hard behind me as if it was angry. When I finally looked back, the surface was calm again. Too calm. No ripples, no movement. But I could see the handprints forming beneath the surface, pressing upwards and then fading. My cousin was crying. She kept saying that she thought I was joking, that she saw bubbles rising around my legs like someone was breathing there. We didn't tell anyone what really happened. But the next morning, my abuela saw the bruises. Fingers shaped small, too small to be mine. She crossed herself and burned herbs by the door. She didn't ask any questions after that. She just said, "The river let you go. It doesn't always do that." I still have scars around my ankles. And sometimes, when I'm near bodies of water, any water at night, I hear splashing that doesn't match the waves. I hear laughter that cuts off too quickly. And once, just once, I heard my own voice calling my name from somewhere beneath the surface. If you're from Cuba, you already know these stories were not to scare us, they were here to warn us. And the children in the water are still waiting. Very interesting. I actually have heard stories like this in Haiti. Nothing too crazy, but there's definitely something in the water, especially like water spirits, that does take children. So I know like people tell stories about mermaids that will kidnap children, and then years later they will bring the children back, and the children will be the same age that they were when they disappeared. I know of a lady who basically disappeared for over 20 years, and when she came back, she literally looked like she did not age a year. But the thing is, her family had to keep leaving offering where she disappeared to appease the mermaids so they can bring her back. And I've actually heard another story about that, and I think the young lady who told that story was Black Conjurer. She told a story like that, but that happened in Africa. But Africa, Haiti, they all usually have the same type of stories. This story was very, very interesting, especially the spirits of the children being tied to the water. And not only that, but they try to have other children, they try to grab other children to replace theirs. Because I think once they die there, their spirit get trapped there. And once they bring another child, then I think it's like a soul for a soul kind of thing. So they replace that child so they can be able to finally be free. I don't know if that's the case, but it sounds very much like that. This is kind of crazy. Let me know if you're from Cuba, if you ever heard of stories like that of children, disappearing in the water and, or drowning in the water. Anyways, I'll talk to you guys later. Hope you enjoyed this story. Love you guys. Bye.